mile as well. So I'd like to start off the show talking about a really neat community opportunity for people out there. Jane's Walk Global Weekend starts today and it runs through the 7th. So I'd like to talk about the citizen-led neighborhood tours in Providence. Joelle Kanter is the city organizer for Jane's Walk and she's right around the corner, so I'd like to welcome her into Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Come on in, Joelle.
Hi.
Hi. Good. So
Nice
good to see you. So come on in. This is a really cool initiative. It's happening all weekend long. Tell me just a little bit about Jane's Walk.
Sure. So Jane's Walk is, it's named for Jane Jacobs. She was a writer. She was an urban activist. She was born in 1916 and she passed away about 10, actually now it's 11 years ago. And so as soon as she passed away, her friends in Toronto decided to honor her legacy by organizing walking tours in Toronto where she lived. And the festival has just grown ever since, and now it's in 252 cities around around the world.
So what is happening here in Providence? Because this sounds like a neat opportunity. We're one of the places. Tell me how you brought this into the city.
So I actually wasn't the one to bring it into Providence.
We brought it into the city.
I'm just carrying on the legacy. So Nate Storing, who went to Brown's, he went to Brown for graduate school. He lived in Toronto and he knew friends of Jane Jacobs, and he's an author who's written about her. And so several years ago when these walking tours had started, he decided to launch them in Providence. So we've been doing them here for about 4 or 5 years now. It started small in 2013, 2014, and it's grown steadily ever since. So this weekend we have 15 walking tours planned in Providence, and we have one tonight, we have 2 tomorrow. I think it's 7 on Saturday and 5 on Sunday.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about how this all came about, how this became a citizen-led tour. Because, I mean, when you think about tours, you have to know about certain things in the city, but this is really, like a community-driven event.
Absolutely. So it's different. I think Jane Jacobs' view was that citizens know their cities best. So she wasn't an urban planner by trade. She loved cities. She enjoyed them. She was a citizen activist. So she really believed in, historic urban fabric. She believed in small blocks, pedestrian activity to bring more eyes to the street, to make sure places felt safe, to encourage interactions. So these were her ideas, and they were really based on observations. So her first book was The Death and Life of Great American Cities in 1961, which is the one that she's best known for. And she's written several other books since then. But I think she's well known at this point. I think that people talk about her ideas. A lot of them now are commonplace. They're things that we talk about. But yeah, I think in Providence, we love this idea. We care about the city. People are really interested in seeing the city revitalized. So we're thrilled to get people who just live here to talk about their own neighborhoods. And that really is the principle. It's not about being an expert, knowing every fact about every building. It's really more about just saying, what do you think about the neighborhood? What do you love about it? And I think each tour should really be something different.
I was just thinking about that walking just to go get a coffee and coming back today. Just one of my favorite things to do is to go around and look at the different architecture and look at different houses. And when go on vacation, one of my favorite things to do is just to go around and look at just different houses and see when things were made. And that's one of the great things about living in New England is there's so much different architecture. Do you think that that's something that can really bring people into the city?
I hope so. In New England, I know that Boston is leading a couple of tours. I think Worcester is also leading a few tours, but Providence has 15. There's something for everybody here. It's a lot. And I hope that people from around the state heard about it earlier today in the press. And, we would love for people to come into the city just for this. The tours are free, so that's important to know.
Awesome.
And again, read up on them on the website. It's janeswalk.org. You'll find everything you need to know about where to get started. And they're really casual. It's not, it's not stressful to be on these walks. The goal is for everyone who goes on them to actually offer something to say, to give their opinion, to share their ideas. So it's a great opportunity.
It's really community and all about community, really uplifting, it seems like.
Absolutely.
So this has been going on for a couple years. How did you get involved in all this?
So several years ago, I had led some tours. So one of them was around the arcade in the neighborhood around the arcade where we are right now.
Oh, hey, yeah, I can see right there.
Yeah, it's right across the street. We also did a tour on public art in Kennedy Plaza, and that was great. But once Nate Storing left Providence, somebody had to take on the role as being the city organizer. And instead of leading the tours, I decided to be the one to organize. So now my role is really just to get other people involved, to reach out to people in different neighborhoods and ask them to lead tours. And it's a challenge, but I'm really excited about the response that we got.
And it seems like with 15 tours planned that you had a good response.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of these. It starts tonight.
Yes.
So this is going all weekend. It starts tonight, and the first one is starts at 6 o'clock. It's on Providence Infrastructure,
Yes.
and it's outside of Union Station Brewery. So what can people expect with that?
So this tour actually leads along the riverfront, and I think it's going to be a really interesting perspective. This one is led by an architect, and he wants to look at places that people aren't looking at every day. So I think he's going to point out some things that might surprise people, and again, the people on the tour should hopefully have something to contribute to.
And then Friday you have a couple different ones. This one stood out: Rhode Island and the International Slave Trade, and it's intersection of Brown and Power Streets, and that starts at 2:30.
Yes, so that tour was actually led last year twice, and it was really popular. I think it's a story that needs to be told here, and she's a fantastic guide. So people should absolutely consider that one. So whether it's raining or not, it should go on as planned.
Yeah, so you said that it really doesn't matter the weather. This is going to happen rain or shine.
Yes, that's the goal.
Okay. Also, you have one at night, which I think is super fun. So Providence at night.
Yep, and these, again, they're led by fantastic guides. I think their goal was to look at something also from a different perspective. So they want to look at, is the lighting, is it adequate at night? Is it artificial? Is it natural? How does it feel? Does it feel safe? Does it feel comfortable? How do special events at night like water fire change the perspective? So again, I think that's an opportunity for people to look at things a little bit differently.
And so how do you find people to do this? Are you looking for just people who live in the neighborhood? Are you looking for people who know a lot about this? Are you looking for, how do people say like, oh yeah, I could totally lead a tour?
It's a mix. We start a few months out, and, we start out by reaching out to different neighborhood groups in the city. And at this point, because it's been going on for a couple of years, there's some people that know what I'm talking about right away,
yeah,
and others that just have no idea. And that's the hard thing. I think the goal is for citizens to really want to lead tours. Anyone has something to offer. So it could be someone who's in elementary school showing their block where they live or their school. And actually last year there was a tour where somebody led a group on bikes to show safe routes to school. And I think she was 13, and that was amazing.
That doesn't give me chills. That's really neat.
So the goal is for anyone. And so we have a good group of people that have been involved over the past couple of years. And of course, it's always easiest to go back to that group. But we've really tried to reach out to a bigger audience as well. So the neighborhood groups, friends of friends, and I think word of mouth has helped a lot.
Are you looking for any specific type of information on these tours, like historical facts? Or are you really looking for kind of unique tidbits like you pointed out? Like, okay, this is where, because I feel like you could get a random here and there, like, oh, this is where my dog ate a bird or something.
And that might happen, and that might be okay. It's supposed to be really respectful, an opportunity for anyone to interject. What I say to the walk leaders when we share tips is, let it take on a life of its own. It should not be a lecture. You shouldn't have every word planned from start to finish. You should be able to think on your toes and respond to questions about dogs and birds and anything that comes up. You don't know who you're going to run into on these walks. So it may be that somebody pops out of their business and has something to say that's really insightful. So I think it's cool that it's really just relaxed and, again, they're unpredictable to an extent, but they should still be really valuable. I think one of the goals is for neighbors to meet each other, and that can happen on these walks.
I love that, for people to meet each other. So Saturday, action-packed.
Yes.
You have a couple different things going on. Explore Providence River District.
Yes.
Roger Williams Park.
And that's part of the Celebrate Roger Williams Day, which is fantastic.
Okay.
So there are plenty of activities planned there throughout the day. I don't know if you see the next one, which is about the North Burial Ground.
Okay, so citizens of the North Burial Ground steps inside the entrance at North Main and Cemetery Streets. That's at 10:30. So what's that about? Anything with the cemetery sounds cool.
So I took this tour last year, and this year it's actually going to be different because they're focusing on...
Let me scoot over just a little bit.
They're focusing on artists and authors and anyone. It's really about the creative community in Rhode Island. So I want to say that there may be 100,000 people buried in that cemetery.
Wow.
And And so this will be, it'll be a different perspective from the one last year. But it's a fascinating place. And again, people will really enjoy that one.
And just to have that history when you're taking it in, whatever the discussion is about, to be able to see the stories and see the names, just to be able to take that in and look at the headstones. And
it makes you go back. I know last year I'd never set foot inside North Burial Ground, but having a reason to go made me, having somebody guide me through it just made it much easier. And then I did go back a couple of months later on my own. And so there's that also. There's an opportunity for somebody to guide you through a neighborhood. And then after that, you can go back on your own and see it from a different perspective.
And that's so neat, because how many times do we drive past something every single day and we don't take a minute to look at it and consider, all the points of view and perspective that has made it part of the city?
Absolutely. And all of the walk leaders put a lot of thought into what they find special, what they want to point out. And even if it's a topic that you've heard before, each walk leader is going to do their own thing with it. So even if you've been on a similar waterfront tour last year, come again. It's worth it.
And it's free, so why not?
Right.
If it's the weekend, why not? And so you have Providence waterfront, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yes.
At the Crawford Street Bridge. I mean, that just kind of sounds cool.
And it's, again, it's something that David Bressett has done in the past, but this will be new and different, and he'll point out things that are relevant today.
Oh, I love that. And then revisiting a northern Elmwood neighborhood in the making.
Yep.
Dialysis Center of Rhode Island parking lot.
Yep. So this is focusing on the northern Elmwood neighborhood. It'll end at the public library. It'll point out the Broad Street Synagogue. Many of the houses that are going to be on the PPS tour in several weeks. So I think that's a great tour, and it's an update on one that was done several years ago.
And so these are all on Saturday. One more, the West Broadway Armory Walk, Bell Street Chapel.
Yes.
I mean, oh gosh, the Armory is just
And this guide, Taylor Pilates, is very knowledgeable, so it should be fantastic.
Okay, so those are one, and that one starts at 2, and I can put this all. It's all on. You'll have all the information as well.
Yes.
So that's exciting. We'll be able to put some information on our website as
and
well,
it's
too.
janeswalk.org. Again, 252 cities are participating, so look for the ones in Providence.
Okay, so Sunday you have the Summit neighborhood. What happened to the circus?
Yes, so this one I think is going to be a surprise. There are two walk leaders. It should be relatively short. It's starting at the Rochambeau Monument. And I think it's going to be a surprising tour. This is not your typical neighborhood walk.
Okay, so that's kind of intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
And that one kicks off at 11 a.m. So you can get some things done on Sunday morning and then go enjoy a nice walk.
Absolutely.
And the Historic Jewelry District, past, present, and future. That sounds intriguing to me. That starts at noon, Small Wooden Park at the corner of Richardson and Ship Street.
Yep, it's Richmond and Ship.
Oh,
and
sorry.
No worries. I think this one's going to be really cool because that's really the 195 district that's being developed, and they'll highlight the history, but I think he's also going to do a great job of talking about projects that are planned and underway, and there's a lot to talk about there.
Oh my goodness, yeah, there's, especially with the future, so interesting to get that perspective of all the past.
Yep, and he's very involved in the neighborhood, so I think that one should get a lot of attention.
And then we have, transit and placemaking to create a new downtown corridor.
Yes.
Oh.
And that one will focus on this downtown transit corridor and plans. And I think the goal is to get people's perspectives of how do you brand this corridor? How do you improve transportation downtown? And I think there's one more before that at noon on Broad Street, which is really going to be fun because it highlights how the neighborhood's changed since the 1950s.
Oh, sorry, Providence's Latino Cultural Corridor.
Yeah.
Okay. And
there's a lot of overlap on Sunday, but that's okay.
Okay, I missed that one. My font is very small on this phone. So that one kicks off at noon. And then we have, so that sounds really interesting. That's on Broad Street.
Yes, and that's, again, it's highlighting how Broad Street has really become the Latino cultural corridor in Providence. It's highlighting the businesses that are there today, which ones came in, starting in the 50s, and how it's transitioned. So if we could do 2 at one time, I would try. But pick your favorite and go to that one.
I mean, there's so many happening, and it's going on all weekend. One more, Walk West Fountain Street, and that's at the northeast corner of Dean and Washington Streets at 3:30.
Yep, and this one should end at one of the bars in the neighborhoods, which should be really fun. But this one is going to highlight some of the new developments, some of the new businesses, and talk about the history of that neighborhood. So on Sunday, I think there's plenty to offer. That one should end at 5. we'll all be exhausted from walking all day. But
make sure you have your Fitbit on, everybody.
Absolutely. But it should be a fantastic day.
So when you're looking at this, I mean, this is a wide variety of topics, a lot of different diversity.
Yep.
You're looking at different neighborhoods within the city as well. How important is that to you when you're planning these tours?
It really is. Again, I want the offerings to be different from year to year. I want anyone to feel like they're, invited to lead a tour, go on a tour. This should be as inclusive as possible. So I believe the tour on Broad Street will be bilingual, and that's really important.
Cool.
I think that may be the only one that is, but again, for future reference, if people aren't available this weekend or want to plan a tour but it's too late for this year, it's really something to think about for next year too. It's always the first weekend of May.
Okay, so it's always the first weekend in May. And that's what I'm thinking about, too. Normally when you think of walking tours, you always think history.
Mm-hmm.
You just always think history, and especially in New England because there's so much history
Right.
to share. A lot of these topics are looking at what's happening in the future, what's happening right now, and looking forward in the future. So I think that's really neat and really relevant to what's happening right now.
And it's sensory. It really is. It's a little bit more about just looking around the neighborhood and sort of looking up and looking down and looking at the people. Is the street quiet? Is it busy? Is it the way people expected it to feel? So again, I can't exactly predict how they're all going to go because they should take on a life of their own. But I expect it to be a really interesting weekend. I expect people to learn something new and, again, hopefully contribute to each walk.
Yeah, and community engagement, it seems what it's really about as
Yes.
well. So how do you really measure the impact of this? What does it really all mean at the end of the day, at the end of the weekend?
I think that's a challenge for us to think about. How do you keep people engaged throughout the year? There is an opportunity to, plan tours throughout the year. It doesn't have to be on this festival weekend. We want, obviously, lots of people to come on the tours. But I don't think that's the only measure of success. I want the walk leaders to remember this, that if you have 2 people on a walk, but they really gain something from it, I think that's amazing. If you have 30 people, that's great too. But we don't necessarily expect that. We just want people to interact, gain something new, and again, hopefully come back and enjoy Providence even more.
Wonderful. Joelle, thank you so much
Thank
for joining
you.
us. This has been absolutely fantastic, really exciting and encouraging to know that there's so much wealth, knowledge, and appreciation for the city, and hopefully a lot of people take advantage of that because the tours are all free.
Yes, all free, rain or shine.
Rain or shine. I love that. All right, let's take a quick picture before you scoot out of here and continue because I know you're busy planning all of this stuff.
There's plenty of work to do.
All right.